Hi everyone, this is Heather from weddingsbyheather.com, where my goal is to equip you with the best techniques and tips to make you a better and more efficient photographer. In this video, we are going to take a look at another new feature inside of Lightroom. But first, make sure you check out my free workflow video series available on my website. Every month, I teach a camera club at our local church, and a few months ago, we learned about exposure bracketing while taking photos of the church outside at dusk. You can see that the result were 3 separate photos with different exposure levels. We're going to use the new HDR merge function inside of Lightroom to combine these photos for the best possible exposure. The high dynamic range function has been available inside of Lightroom for quite some time, but actually what it would do is take the selected photos to Photoshop for processing. And in this new version, you can accomplish this directly inside of Lightroom without the need for Photoshop. The first thing we're going to do is select all 3 of these photos by pressing Shift and then clicking on the last photo. Under your File menu, go to Photo, Photo Merge, and then you'll see HDR. Notice that the keyboard shortcut is Control H. Now, a word to my Mac user friends, it is in fact Control H on the Mac as well as the PC. So oftentimes this will be Command or Control H. That is not the case with this particular function. You would need to press Control H on the Mac as well. Let's go ahead and select that. And we'll see this dialog box. Now it's going to take some time for Lightroom to process this preview because we're looking at 3 raw files and it's going to produce a raw file as well. Now the issue is we really can't do anything while this dialog box is showing and this function is processing, but I found a little trick to get around that and I'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, that looks great. Let's talk about a few of these options. You will almost always want to have auto align turned on. Unless you were photographing on a tripod, the chances are that the composition is not exactly the same in all 3, 5, 7, or 9 photographs, depending on how you set up your exposure bracketing. Auto tone is a develop module setting. You could have that turned on or off. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on. I can adjust it in the develop module however I would like. The de-ghost amount refers to any ghosting that may have occurred between the exposures. So what that means is if there were trees in the photo and there was a lot of wind that day and the trees were moving around, you would most likely want to have your de-ghosting turned on. But if there wasn't any, then having it turned on won't hurt. So I'm going to leave that set to medium. And I'm going to go ahead and choose merge and wait for Lightroom to create a new file. Okay, great. There's our new file. We could take it inside of the develop module and adjust as necessary. But before I do that, I want to tell you about a quick keyboard shortcut that can save you a significant amount of time when working with this feature. So a moment ago I said, well, when you select the photos and you bring up the HDR dialog box, you really can't do anything inside of Lightroom until it's finished processing, and it can take quite some time. So instead of waiting for it to finish, what you can do is select all 3 of those photos, and rather than pressing Control H on your keyboard or going to the File menu, we could execute this to run in the background. So we don't need to see that dialog box. We're pretty much going to use the same settings for all of our photos. So the keyboard shortcut in order to do that is Control Shift H. And then you'll notice that Lightroom is creating the HDR in the background, which means I could go to work on my other photos and continue to be productive, which I love. I hope that you found this useful. I'll see you in the next video.